seeing from the chat here, who would you rather have in 2025? DeAndre Hopkins, who you'd have to sign to a new contract. So I put $15 million in there because he's going to be 33 years old. Or Tee Higgins, who will be 26 years old next offseason, who would be roughly around that $30 million mark. So nearly probably twice the price tag of D-Hop with the 7 years age gap. So, Sam, what's the chat saying here on this?
Chris is saying both, but T because he's younger. Titans Kyle says Higgins. Mario, John, they both say Higgins. Rashid says neither. Willie says Higgins. Kenneth says Hopkins, then draft a guy. We've got D-Hop from DR David. We've got a draft pick, says Jared, going off the board there as well. We've got Hopkins, says Eric. We've got Brandon says Higgins. We've got Higgins from Lee. We've got Higgins from Jermel. We've got Higgins from Toff. We've got Higgins no-brainer, says Steven. And see, we've got D-Hop until proven wrong, says Zach, believes in what Hopkins showed last year. Hopkins and draft the wide receiver is what Corey says. Hopkins is what Tighten Up is saying. We got Higgins from Jared. We've got Hopkins from Jody. So it was a little bit of some Higgins love early on, but a couple people coming in saying Hopkins. Jared says D-Hop there. Higgins and draft is what Roger says. So probably majority is 60-40. Do you have that YouTube poll up to get an actual number?
I do have the YouTube poll up. Now, it is a very young YouTube poll. So let me, so it's only been up for 3 minutes. So currently the YouTube poll is 63% Tee Higgins.
Matches the chat. It matches the chat.
All right. So Sam, I'll let you go first. Who would you rather have for the Titans wide receiver core in 2025? A 33-year-old DeAndre Hopkins for roughly $15 million, or a 26-year-old Tee Higgins for nearly $30 million, which you would expect to be a 3 to 4 year deal on that extension. So what's your answer on this question?
I really like Tee Higgins. I really like the player that he is. I think the fit with Brian Callahan is amazing. I think he's young. I think his best football could still be ahead of him. And I'd rather have DeAndre Hopkins. Half the price. A couple of reasons why. Number one, Tee Higgins' fit with Brian Callahan is great. DeAndre Hopkins having proven chemistry with your young quarterback is better. I want the guy that Will Levis trusts and Will Levis has played with. I don't think D-Hop is at the end of his rope here. And I don't necessarily think you need to be looking to this other wide receiver as a 5-year solution and a 5-year fix. I think you're looking at, all right, 24, 25, 26, like these next 3 years, who can be a guy for you? And I do believe DeAndre Hopkins still has that in the tank. So that to me makes a lot of sense, especially when you start talking about price. And we talked about this when the Titans signed Calvin Ridley. I don't believe you can have two $30 million wide receivers on your roster. I just don't think it makes a ton of sense, especially when you're looking at needing to pay your young quarterback pretty soon. If he is the guy that you hope and think he could be, then you're talking about paying Will Levis $40 million. You've got $100 million tied up into Ridley, Higgins, and Levis.
So Ridley is 23 on average, right? So then we're talking about Higgins would be in the 30s because the year later, and Levis having 40, it might be a little low when you're talking about 2 summers from now.
I think it makes a lot more sense to, if this Ridley Hopkins combo works and has the chemistry that I think it's going to this fall, to pay Hopkins, keep him here, a guy who I think has been awesome in every way on and off the field since joining the Titans. You keep him here at a discounted rate because he is a little bit older. And if you need that long-term fit, that next guy, like that is when you draft another wide receiver and you go with Ridley, Hopkins, third receiver who's a rookie, who's on a rookie deal, and you make the future of wide receiver Ridley and this draft pick, and not Ridley and Tee Higgins for a total of over $50 million, especially when, hey, there have been some injury concerns with Tee Higgins. There have been some consistency concerns with Tee Higgins. What does he look like away from Jamar Chase? Those are questions we don't know. And I don't know if I want to go ahead and dump 5 years, $150 million on that guy when you have an in-house option that we know works and you can get cheaper.
So, all right, there's a couple different layers to this because I'm going to answer the question, but then we're going to play some devil's advocate and have some fun with that too. Because I also agree. I think the answer is DeAndre Hopkins. Because as much as you said you like Tee Higgins, right? Then I like Tee Higgins, but I think I don't like him as much. I didn't want to trade for Tee Higgins. I didn't think that was a smart move for the Titans on the franchise tag. We talked at the top of the show. I think Tee Higgins doesn't have high enough of a ceiling to get the biggest free agent dollar. I also agree with you when it comes to I think extending DeAndre Hopkins, we'll talk about that here a little bit. I think that makes the most sense to me because you have that instant familiarity with Will Levis. He is still not in his prime, but he's still got plenty of really good football.
You could do 2 years, $30 million for him and like keep him in 24 and 25 and like,
well, he's already under. Are you talking about keeping him 25?
Yeah, like you buy out his 25 contract year, basically.
Okay, so you're talking about extending him soon, so we up him in this year and then continue it over.
Possibly, right? Yeah. I mean,
sure.
Got to get the extension done early.
For sure, and time is ticking. John Robinson historically did a lot of big money extensions in the week or the week of training camp. In the past with Jarrell Casey, Taylor Lewan, Kevin Byard, Derrick Henry, several guys.
And I don't think, just going back to Hopkins real quick, like, man, I don't know this for sure. My personal opinion is I don't think DeAndre Hopkins would care about not making top dollar on an extension. Like, I don't know. For me, I feel like everything I've heard from DeAndre Hopkins would lead me to believe he cares more about where he's playing and the fit of where he's playing than the price tag associated with his contract. He's been in the league for 10 years, right? This is a guy who's made his money. He's got endorsements out the wazoo off the field. Like, he doesn't need to make 25 if he can make 15 and be somewhere that he's happy. Mm-hmm. And I think he's very happy in Nashville. Like,
especially Nashville.
Yeah. He's the guy that got here and said, after football, I want to do country music festivals. And he's off hanging out with Morgan Wallen and going to all these different shows and just really embracing the vibe that is Music City, where I could see DeAndre Hopkins being super cool, spending the rest of his career here and having a really fun offense and fun receivers around him. So I think there's some real legs to that. I don't know if Hopkins is really all that crazy about jumping back into free agency again next year and, finding a new home.
Especially because when he's not playing football and he's in Nashville, he's making future connections for his career after football, right? And he's already planting those seeds. So that's where the value is here.
Does DeAndre Hopkins want to go to Buffalo for a year? Maybe, right? Maybe playing with Josh Allen is that important to him, and he's all fired up about that. I think Allen was a guy that he was pumped about when he was talking about, I want to play with an elite quarterback. But things are pretty good. I feel like it's gone well for him here in Nashville, and I think the Titans would love to have him, and Titans fans would love to have him. So